Hey man, do you ever think that trees have their own secret language? No, seriously, think about it. They're always whispering and rustling. Maybe they're plotting something like world domination or starting a tree band. You never know, bro. So, you're on a quest to reach new heights of elevation, huh? You've been honing your moderation skills, sipping before you're ripping, and now you're ready to take it to the next level. Well, buckle up, bro, because I've got some amazing tips that will have you soaring higher than a rocket on Taco Tuesday. Let's throw out all those generic garbage tips you've heard before. I mean, seriously, who needs to eat a truckload of mangoes to get higher? That's just a fruity myth, man. Trust me, I devoured more mangoes than anyone in California, and while they're delicious, they won't magically make you get higher. But fear not, because I got some real gems for you. Now, we all know about the importance of moderation, right? You can't be high all day, every day. But there's more to it than just setting limits. It's all about mixing things up like a mad scientist in a lab of elevated experiences. So grab your lab coat and goggles, because we're about to conduct some experiments that would even make Einstein jealous. First things first, let's talk about the art of variety. You can't just keep puffing on the same strain and expect to reach new heights. It's time to dive into the vast sea of cannabis strains and explore the diversity of smells and flavors. Say goodbye to the monotony of one-note aromas and embrace your symphony of scents that awaits you. Trust me, your olfactory senses will thank you for the adventure. But we're not stopping at strains, bro. Oh no, we're taking it further. You see, the way you consume your weed can also have a profound impact on your high. So let's mix it up like a bartender crafting a cocktail of elevated bliss. You're all about dabbing, why not take a break and indulge in the good old flower power? And if you're a flower enthusiast, give dabbing a chance to tickle your taste, bro. The two highs are like different dance partners, each with their own unique moves. So why not dance with both and experience the joy of twirling in the clouds? Now, let's add a dash of spontaneity to the mix. You've been hitting the same bond every day, haven't you? Well, it's time to break free of that routine and embrace the unexpected. Try out different devices and pieces like a rebellious teenager experimenting with fashion. Take a hit from a dry pipe or even a herb vape. Each device has its own personality, and by switching it up, you'll keep the fire of excitement burning bright. But here's where things get really interesting, man. Are you ready for a challenge that will leave you in stitches? Remember those days when you thought you were a Mario Kart champion? Well, it's time to put those skills to the test in the ultimate high Olympics. Grab your friends, gather around a TV, and prepare a fierce battle of stone supremacy. Just be careful not to spill your snacks during those intense moments of drifting and crashing. And speaking of snacks, let's not forget the munchies. We all know how unstoppable the munchies can be, devouring everything in their path like a pack of hungry wolves. But here's a pro tip. Eat before you smoke. Trust me, it's a game changer. When you're fueled up with a hearty meal, the munchies become a delightful adventure, rather than an insatiable monster. So stack up on those snacks, bro, and prepare for a feast of epic proportions. But let's take it up a notch, shall we? Instead of settling for the typical munchies fare, let's get creative with our culinary choices. How about combining two beloved snacks into one ultimate concoction? Like a pizza topped with mac and cheese, drizzled with a spicy nacho cheese sauce, and sprinkled with crushed potato chips. It's a flavor explosion that will have you reaching for the stars, both in taste and elevation. Let's not forget the classic dilemma of forgetting where you put your snacks while you're already snacking. We've all been there, rummaging through the couch cushions like a treasure hunt in search of gold. Well, man, it's time to turn that frustration into a laughter-filled adventure. Create a high treasure hunt, complete with clues and riddles that will lead you to hidden stashes of delicious goodies. It's like a stoner's version of the Da Vinci Code, with snacks as the ultimate prize. Now, let's shift gears and bring some physical activity into the mix. I know, exercising while high might sound like an oxymoron, but trust me, it can be a hilarious and uplifting experience. Gather your buddies and engage in some unconventional sports. How about a high-speed tricycle racing in your neighborhood, complete with ridiculous costumes and enthusiastic cheers from the sidelines? Or maybe a game of stone frisbee golf where the rules are fluid and the laughter is contagious. Not only will you enjoy the endorphin rush, but you'll also discover new ways to connect with your friends in fits of laughter. But let's not neglect the power of music, bro. Music has an incredible ability to enhance our highs and transport us into otherworldly realms. So, create the ultimate stoner playlist, filled with funky beats, soulful melodies, and mind-bending sounds. And here's a twist. Sing along like there's no tomorrow, even if you're completely off-key. Embrace the joy of uninhibited singing, belting out tunes with all the passion of a rock star performing at Wembley Stadium. Your hilarious vocal performances will have your friends in stitches and take your high to soaring heights. And finally, let's bring it all together with a grand finale. Organize a themed high party that will be the talk of the town. Whether it's a cosmic rave, a retro's 80s extravaganza, or a tropical luau, go all out with decorations, costumes, and of course, mind-blowing experiences. Imagine you dancing under a neon lit sky, surrounded by inflatable palm trees, while enjoying delicious treats and mind altering delights. It's something that you and your friends will never forget. So, man, there you have it, a guide to getting even higher.
You know, when I was younger, I thought greening out was a myth. It was definitely a scary myth, right? But I thought it was like a boogeyman, a Slender Man, or a Aerobrine. Basically, I thought it was just an urban myth to make sure first-time potheads weren't ODing left and right. Oh boy, I learned hard one day that it is indeed a real thing. We were partying like a bunch of teenagers normally would, right? Passing the bong around, getting our hits in. Then a buddy of mine tries calling me out, going, "Hey yo, you ain't never greened out before, huh?" I'm like, "Nah, man, that ain't real. Y'all just a bunch of lightweights." Can't talk until it actually happens to you, bro. It's something else, I tell you. Ain't no way, bro. I'll show you right now. I snagged that bong from my friend's hand. I was huffing and puffing like the big bad wolf coming to blow down the pigs' houses. My friends were counting me on every hit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After a while, I couldn't hear their voices. I was in my own little world. You know, it hit me. I was in my own little world. Just me alone in the world. It's only me. That was the most crushing feeling I had. It was like everything was gonna end. Like if I took one more hit from that bong, it would all just be over. I stopped moving and just looked around at all my buddies, and I was thinking about them too. I was like, you guys are also in your own little world, huh? Isn't that lonely? They were looking at each other and just started laughing their asses off. It was that moment that they knew that I finally greened out. They waved me over, told me to come sit down with them. It was all in the fun of it, but I know they probably knew I was gonna collapse sooner or later. So I started walking over to them, and let me tell you, that first step was the heaviest step I've ever taken in my life. Not just the first step, but every step it took me to get to the sofa, which was like only 5 or 6 steps. When I got to the sofa, I wasn't even thinking about sitting down properly. I just fell over. I felt like Kratos finally taking the plunge with Aerosmith playing in the background. The worst part about the fall was that it felt as if I was falling forever. As if I was in a portal and somebody put a portal below and above me and I was just falling for eternity. That shit was horrifying. I plummeted into that sofa face first and my buddies were laughing their asses off. "Hey bro, you alright?" I was saying something, but it was muffled because my face was still planted into the sofa. "Come on bro, say something." It was a little louder this time, but still muffled, so my friend decided to turn me over, and boy was he surprised. What he found was me crying, bawling my eyes out. As much as we smoke weed over and over again, at some point it gets used up, right? And then you gotta switch it out with some new stuff. That's kind of just like life. We start getting used and smoke up. Eventually we're getting replaced by something newer. I looked over at my friends. It's game over, man. It's game over. I held myself in a fetal position and just started crying even more. It's game over, man. It's game over. My friends told me I was repeating that phrase over and over again until I eventually passed out. I woke up, felt the worst that I've ever felt after smoking. I felt fatigued, I could barely move my arms and legs. I had a rocking headache. My roommate saw me lumbering in the morning. He was laughing at me hard. "You finally greened out?" "Uh-huh." And that was my first time greening out. Yo.
Oh, hey, Bob.
You vaping again?
No, man.
Steven, Give me some of that. Everyone knows vaping is not good. At this point in my life, most of the people I know have quit, are quitting, or moved on to non-smoking alternatives like Zyn or that Swedish snus. But back in the day, there was plenty of characters chasing that short-lived high in their own special way. Let's start with the best of the bunch, the OG. This is your friend who knows that everyone's going to get even more addicted to vaping if they have their own, so they make the MVP move and supply not just one, but multiple vapes at the party. These are the guy touting a 12-pack of illegal mango pods for the road trip. They have a battery pack for multiple vapes at all times. These are the kids who literally supply the party, and if you're a good friend, you'll pass him $5 every now and then because you know he's spending more than that for everyone to have a good time. But for every giver, there's 5 takers. Up next, we have the moocher. We all know this guy. They'll never buy a vape because it's addictive, but they'll walk up to anyone and everyone and ask for a hit of their vape like it's no big deal. They'll even try to guilt trip people into sharing, saying things like, "Come on, I'm going through a tough time right now." I knew this one kid who, I shit you not, would snap his fingers at people he didn't even know, trying to get a hit. One time he did this at a party on the wrong side of town, and someone snapped back and broke his fingers. Next, we've got the fiends. These people are just addicts, straight up. These are the kids who have to vape just to poop in the morning. I don't know if that's true, but I've done it and it works. Sometimes. They're the ones you'll find taking hits anywhere and everywhere. The bathroom, the classroom, the mall, the zoo, thinking they're being sneaky because they thought to blow it down their shirt. And that's the thing. If you're not a complete idiot, it's pretty easy to get away with. But trust me, the satisfaction you get from successfully sneaking in the jewel will inevitably be replaced by the cold, hard truth that even if they did know, most people probably wouldn't even care. It's tough with the fiends, because on the one hand, you know they're in the grips of something truly nasty. But on the other, you have a pretty good feeling your life is worth less to them than a plastic box filled with liquid-soaked cotton balls. Speaking of addicts, we can't forget about a huge group, ex-smokers. This guy's quitting an even worse vice, so he really doesn't care where he's doing it. On the one hand, you gotta give it to them. They're cleaning up their act. But goddamn if I see one more of these guys with their big-ass rigs blowing atomic bomb-sized smoke clouds, someone's getting smacked. I once saw a guy fill up an entire train car with a vape cloud in 2 minutes flat on St. Paddy's Day. There's nothing you can really do either. I mean, it's not like they're smoking, right? And finally, we got the quitters. Now again, this is a whole range of people, practically everyone at this point, but these are the people who have quit multiple times, for months at a time, and eventually one thing happens, and they're hooked again. For most people, the problem isn't the actual nicotine, it's the sheer convenience of vaping. Especially in the colder climates, if you gotta drag your ass outside to get your fix, and you're gonna be stinking after, it's a major barrier to you forming a habit. You can go ahead and count that double for weed vapes. All it takes is one weekend where you decide to keep a half-empty cartridge, and boom, you're back at square one. But if you are looking for a vape on the cheap, keep a lookout for the guy who's saying this is his last time, and on Sunday morning, if they're smart, they'll be looking for someone to pawn that death stick off on. Anyways, hope you didn't think that last bit as encouraging you to vape. Look, I think we all know this stuff can be dangerous, especially if your idea of a healthy coping mechanism is popping onto YouTube for an hour. But don't let that stop you from liking, subscribing, interact with your fellow Bob fans in the comments. Peace.
2010s were kinda wild. EDM hitting mainstream, GTA 5, Game of Thrones, Jules. At the time, the possibilities for this decade seemed limitless. And for a while, kinda was. Now, I think we can all agree the back half seemed to trail off a little bit. Let's gather some member berries from the 2010s. Drugs in the 2010s were crazy. And I'm talking about the legal ones too. It's like the government just didn't care until enough moms got together to complain on the nightly news. First off, Four Loko. If you didn't have at least one wild night from Floor Loco, I'm sorry, but you missed out. Aptly called blackout in a can, Four Loko was basically what you would take when you really wanted that liquid courage. That I don't know what kind of man I'm gonna turn into, but I'm double fisting locos and something's about to pop off. Right now is probably where I would reminisce about memories of going crazy on Four Loko. That's kind of the thing, right? You always ended up blacking out. Good times, I guess? And then we got vapes. Now, a lot of people's first foray into vaping was Juuls, but that overlooks such a key part of the vaping legacy. Big ass rigs. In the early 2010s, most people were against smoking cigarettes and disgusted by dipping. So when the first vapes came around, basically everyone wanted a taste. And they got a taste alright. These were the sub-ohm days, my friend, when your Marine buddy had a 50 cal cartridge that could fill up your buddy's basement with one rip. When vape shops were raking in mommies and daddies' dough, selling barely 18-year-olds e-liquids with names that would make your high school drug dealer jealous. But the games in the 2010s were god tier. Hell, these games are so good, they're either remaking or re-releasing half of them today. It seemed like every major studio had at least a couple of monster hits in the 2010s. You had the doctors at BioWare pushing out RPGs with surgical precision, gems like KOTOR, Mass Effect, Dragon Age. The Hauser brothers and Benzi at Rockstar, breaking every sales record known to man with Red Dead Redemption 1, 2, and not to mention the highest grossing game of all time, besides Minecraft, GTA 5. Naughty Dog going off the hizzle with The Last of Us and Uncharted sequels. Man, this was back when CD Projekt Red was still hungry. The Witcher 3 had such a multi-layered complex story, there's channels still finding unique dialogue options to this day. And that's not even touching the multiplayer games. Man, back before DICE got completely chewed up by EA, Battlefield Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 defined my online gaming experience. I remember falling asleep with a sniper scope etched on my eyelids. Not to mention classics like Titanfall 2, Halo Reach, and OG Black Ops. Damn. Now, we're deep in the microtransaction-ridden, pay-to-play games as a service era. Fortnite, Destiny 2, Overwatch, Halo Infinite. Most of these games are great, but by God, it just don't hit the same. Also, VR was a thing for a hot minute. My brother bought me a Gen 1 Oculus Rift, and I was fucking in. I 3D printed out a gun stock to play Onward and Pavlov VR. Oh, Pavlov was so sick. Everyone would upload classic maps. You have not lived until you've corner peeked someone on a Counter-Strike map you literally know every square inch of. But there's only so many times you can handle getting VR sickness before you're Pavlovianly broken, especially when there's not any new games coming out to push you to put the thing on. The early 2010s was the end of the golden age for cable TV shows. You had classic sitcoms like The Office, Parks and Rec, 30 Rock, Community, all wrapping up at the same time. And looking back, it's weird noticing just how many of those actors' careers just launched into the stratosphere with these shows. In animation, you had Adventure Time, Rick and Morty, Gravity Falls. Kinda cringe being a Rick and Morty fan now, but I'm telling you, I was an OG fan. Streamed the first episode live from my dorm room and everything. Now, obviously, the show is problematic, but frankly, I haven't been following it the last couple of seasons anyway. Oh, and AMC's lineup at the time, The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, Mad Men. Now, granted, most of us were too young or stupid to realize that the writers were casting these anti-heroes as loathable instead of laudable, but I mean, where would the Sigma male meme be without them? The 2010s was also the golden age for watching shows. remember when Netflix was the only streaming platform, so they got all the shows? Now there's over 50 of them at least. Movies, we can leave that for another day. Suffice to say, we're all living in the post-snap hellscape of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I guess you can't really finish talking about the 2010s without mentioning the rise of social media. Honestly, I've never really been that big on social media, so I don't really have much to say here. I think it's kind of funny the app that kids would send nudes on got on the stock exchange, but besides that, I think we all kind of know every major platform is a dumpster fire filled with chronically online users desperate for virtual validation. And just reading their pathetic comments will eventually drag you down to their subhuman level.
What's up, guys? Bob here. Topic du jour is high school. What kind of kids there are, what's their deal, and what do you do when you spill orange juice on your pants and it looks like you pissed yourself? The answer to that one is actually nothing. Man, just chill. No one's checking out your package. Anyways, high school. The hormones are flowing, hair's starting to grow in strange places, and everyone's just trying to make sense of it all. And the best way to do that is to cosplay as someone you think knows what they're doing. First up, we've got the cool kids. And yeah, if you ain't 'em, you probably hate 'em. But seriously, some of these kids were the worst. Straight up, these were just the rich kids. Daddy's girl, mama's boy. Well, to be honest, I'm kind of a mama's boy, but you know what I mean. The problem with these kids isn't the money, it's just they have so much stuff, it becomes their whole identity. Like, my man, you're not sponsored by Gymshark. Chill. And they're not all bad. I actually know a couple cool kids who were, cool. But a lot of them, man, it's like there was just no consequences. I knew this girl who had a super nice car, like a BMW 7 Series or something. Anyway, she crashes it coming home from the party one night, and not a week later, bam, pulls into the parking lot with a brand new Dodge Charger. Like, seriously? Let me just say, things didn't turn out so well for her after high school. Next, we got the nerds. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Bob, these are the STEM kids. Someone's got to make our dystopian AI future. And yeah, every once in a while there's one kid who's actually a genius. But most of these fools are just flexing. Always have their hand up in class, reminding the teachers about our homework and quizzes. These are the kids who are asking about extra credit with like an A-. Chill, dude. School doesn't have to be your entire life. Now, if they were Asian, you couldn't really blame them, tiger moms and all. But the I'm so smart white kids, whew, these guys were a handful. Going on and on about the latest scientific discoveries, the newest technologies and gadgets. Let's be honest, most of that stuff's just vaporware anyways. Just because you figured out how to install Linux on the old family computer your brother crashed downloading risque Skyrim mods doesn't make you Albert Einstein. After that, we got the rebels. The rule breakers. The kids who gotta be different, gotta stand out, but instead of actually trying at anything, decide to read up on their Fourth Amendment rights to confront cops on the side of the highway. Now, this group is a mixed bag. Some of these kids are just posers, but there were some legitimate freedom fighters out there. Like one day, there was this kid in my class who didn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our teacher started getting pissed, like legitimately screaming at him. Kid was cool as a cucumber. She even called in the principal and everything. Still wouldn't do it. Eventually, they just gave up. And at the time, I thought it was pretty dumb. Like, come on, man, just do the thing. But looking back, yeah, it was kind of messed up they were forcing him to do that. And finally, we have the jocks. Now, these guys and the cool kids usually ran together, so needless to say, I wasn't a big fan. These are the guys wearing the Leatherman jackets, blocking the hallways when freshmen walk by, talking to all the cute girls. They're in the spotlight and they know it. The thing that pissed me off the most was that these kids were all about the gym. I mean, I get working out. Most kids at that age are just trying to avoid being nicknamed Twiggy Twiggerman McBallsack. But the jock kids were on a different level. Every morning before class, you'd see these kids pushing plates. Like, we get it, man, you're strong. But Jesus, you keep putting up 400 plus for reps, you're gonna be hobbling in a couple years.
That's probably the worst part. Not even the jocks themselves, but just the insane pressure they were under from the coaches and parents. Pushing these kids to try and fill some hole in their pathetic lives. Man, I even knew some of these kids that got pushed into taking steroids. Sad, really. Speaking of coaches, we've got a special mention for this episode. Gym teachers. Some of them were genuinely chill, let you play dodgeball every class, gives you the easy A. But man, let me tell you, every school I went to, there was at least one gym teacher trying to shack up with a student. Every single one. So yeah, there's your daily ration of high school characters. And just remember, all these different characters are on a spectrum, and we're all at different points on it. They're like costumes. Not everyone's a goth wearing full black, but man, do I love me a good metal shirt. Anyways, that's all for now, but stay tuned, lots more high school characters to run through. And if you like the channel, pray on our behalf to the algorithm and drop a like. Hit subscribe, but never hit the bell.